We are committed to bringing many perspectives on fatherhood, which brings us to our first panel. This one is called Fatherhood POV. It will allow us to delve deeper through the lens of leaders and, excuse me, practitioners with decades in the fatherhood field. First off, let's introduce our moderator, Representative Johnny Shaw. He served in the Tennessee General Assembly and House District 80 for over 23 years and is an advocate for fathers and returning citizens from incarceration. Next, we have Charmaine Harris. He is a speaker, author, and trainer who shares his expertise in fatherhood and prison reentry from Wisconsin. He himself overcame the challenges of a felony conviction, leading to a full pardon from Governor Tony Evers. And we have Marcus Manise, founder and executive director of Stronger Than My Father, a nonprofit that mentors youth to become responsible adults and proud parents. He's a Nashville native and has mentored for over 15 years. Last but not least, we are joined by Seth Chamberlain. He is the branch chief of the Healthy Marriage and Responsible Fatherhood Program for the Administration for Children and Families. He spent nearly 15 years working on federal healthy marriage and responsible fatherhood programs and evaluations. All right, gentlemen, if you'll take your place up here on the podium. Keep in mind, there will be about 15 minutes reserved for questions. We'll have you raise your hand and a mic will be brought to you. Make sure and keep track of your questions. All right, Representative Shaw, we'll let you get started.
Thank you, sir. Good to meet you. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It's good to be here. Let me begin by thanking Commissioner Carter for this opportunity. I do want to say that I think Commissioner Carter has brought the definition of human services. All hard work, excuse me, that thank you that he's doing. It's good to be here with these young men this morning. We are proud to be here to talk about fatherhood. I'm excited because I've always been a good dad. My kids probably don't think so, but I've always been a good dad, and I'm excited to be here to talk about how we can amplify. And that word amplify means to get it out there, get it out in a big way. Amplify fatherhood this morning. So we want to begin with these gentlemen. Gentlemen, thank you all for being here. Now, Dr. Farrell just highlighted the importance that one individual, one father, has on his family and his community. We brought you all together this morning because you represent different, often multiple perspectives of fatherhood from national as well as Tennessee, statewide, as individuals. So what we'd like for you to do is this morning is to maybe put a little color, a little texture, put a little experience in what fatherhood is really all about. So I'm going to begin with you this morning, Charmaine. In your opinion, what does fatherhood, or where does it begin, and how do we support fathers at all phases?
Good morning, everyone. Charmaine Harris from Wisconsin. Been doing this a while. Where does fatherhood begin?
Yes.
Not to be facetious, but I think it began when God created man.
Amen.
But no, seriously, I think it starts in the womb. I think a lot of times we look at fatherhood as like an individual thing, but it's more of a community thing. It's more of a communal thing. And so from the earliest as conception, with a father being present, there's data and research that I'm not a researcher or nothing, but like a father speaking to a kid while in the womb is very important. And, the community as a whole. So I think fatherhood starts as soon as, you know, a mother conceives, and even before that, like when the kid is being raised. Just recently, my son started 4K and he has a IEP, and I remember going in, and when you go in, they give the kid like a little dowel or something, and so he's playing with the dowel, and I know what they're doing. They looking for signs, right? So if a little boy is like roughing up the dowel a little bit, they'll you know, put him in a certain, you know, way of thinking or looking. But you know, my son is being nurturing and caring and trying to feed the baby, and you know, all of that started from what he's seen from his father and his big brother and his mother. So fatherhood for me begins first with God, and then secondly with us as a community as a whole. As a little boy watches grown men in his community, watches his father, watches his uncles, watches his brothers, and things like that.
Well, while I've got you, how do we support fatherhood at all phases, in your humble opinion?
As I said, supporting them at the earliest level possible, as Dr. Farrell mentioned here, supporting little boys from the beginning. You know, this is from the baby phase, being more nurturing around them, changing that mindset from, you know, men are reduced down to just a check, right? But men are needed in this community and needed in this world, and so you support them from the birth to adults, when you start thinking like that.
Uh, Marcus, bring your view from the younger generation of fatherhood. Uh, Based on what you've heard this morning, what's your take on that?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Marcus Vanice with Stronger Than My Father youth program here in Nashville. Being a mentor for over 20 years, young men are angry when their father's not in the home. A lot of them deal with so many different emotions, abandonment, and where is my father? So for me to come in, I was fortunate enough to have my father. So I come in with number one, teaching them comfort, teaching them, hey, I'm going to be here for you. And I've dedicated my life for that for 20 years. Most young men, when they're upset like that, that's the ones who end up doing crime. So when you look at the news and you see a young man still in a car, a good father doesn't teach a child how to steal a car. They don't teach them that. A good father doesn't teach a child how to break in cars. They don't. So when you do not have that father in the home, the world and other people will teach them that. That's why gangs are so big now. They are alternative families. Boys are looking for validation. They want somebody to validate them. They want somebody to tell them that you love me. And when you don't have that dad that can hug that child, that's the problem that you see. And that's what I've seen over 20 years. So when I go to their school and I hug them saying, hey, son, how you doing? It's a feeling that they know, hey, I have somebody that supports me. And that's what a true father's supposed to do. I'm a father of two boys, 14 and 8. And every morning I tell them I love them. I give them a hug. And so I grew up with my father. My father did that. Now, my father didn't tell you I love you a lot, but you know what? He was there and he taught us how to work. And that's the things I do with my program, is teaching these boys that, hey, there are some guys that are going to be in your life until you become an adult. And when you become an adult, I'm going to still be there because you're not going to act up. That's what I tell them. They ain't going to act up. So that's from a young person's perspective. So when you're teachers, educators, and you see these kids acting up in school, you ever ask, where's the dad? Because when I grew up, the only word I didn't want to hear was, do I need to call your daddy? I didn't want to hear that. Now is, do I need to call your mother? There's something wrong with that. And there's something wrong with that picture. So hopefully through this conference, we can begin to change that narrative, because fatherhood matters.
Seth, how about giving us your perspective from the federal level on this issue?
Sure thing. So from a federal perspective, there's the question, you know, when does a joke become a dad joke, right? When the punchline becomes apparent. So
Clap it up for that one.
all jokes aside, I think there's something magical when a man becomes a dad. That happened with me. Holding my daughter, just a couple hours old, right against my chest. It was magic. It was absolute magic. And it was transformational. When a man becomes a father, that man is transformed into a new creation. So I think fatherhood begins the moment a father decides to focus on his kid and his family. Now, that focus can look a lot different depending on the situation, right? Not all fathers can drop their kid off at school, pick them up, help them with their homework, play catch for a half hour, and then cook a flavorful yet healthy meal, right? Some fathers, sometimes fatherhood can only happen during the bedtime routine because the father's working very long hours to put food on the table. Sometimes fatherhood can only happen on the weekends because that's the arrangement the father and mother have made. Sometimes fatherhood is letters from prison. But in every action a father takes to show that that child is loved, every action matters. So at the federal level, what we're doing to support fathers is funding a type of program called Responsible Fatherhood Programs. We have about 57 grants across the country. So what we do, imagine this, 10 guys all in a room together talking about what it means to be a dad. That's powerful, right? Getting 10 guys together to say, here's all my struggles. Here's all my joys. Here's all my questions. There's something really powerful getting all of those guys together. You know, we serve a lot of different guys in these types of responsible fatherhood programs. We serve dads in the community, both those that are custodial and non-custodial. We serve fathers in prison. We serve fathers that are reentering. And we serve a lot of dads. That only shows that there are so many dads out there that are hungry for that type of education about how to be a dad. So I think that a man becomes a father the moment he decides to support his kids and his family. And what we're doing at the federal level is to provide education, training, and support for all these guys.
I want to take a moment, excuse me, congestion, y'all. I want to take a moment to just ask all three of you to briefly comment on, do you guys think fatherhood is generational? Do you think it stems from one generation to another?
Oh, certainly, certainly. You know, the saying is we tend to father how we were fathered or parent how we were parent. And so in many instances, you find that if a person didn't have their father, they then go on to create their own definition or their own picture of what fatherhood is. And so think about it like this. You got a fatherless young boy, you know, meets fatherless young girl. They get together. Both of them don't really have a model of what generational fatherhood is. And so then they get together and create what they believe parenting is or structure is. And it's a lot of times it's based on, you know, things they see around them, maybe TV, maybe, you know, influencers, entertainers and things like that. But it's really not rooted and grounded in something generational. And I'll be honest with you, like a lot of times we don't even know our lineage. And there are some systemic things on top of that, but like I only know up until my grandpa. I don't know my great grandfather, my great great grandfather. And a lot of times when you have that identity in that, like, you know, great grandpa was a sharecropper or he owned a hardware store, and you know, like, you know where you came from, it then takes your story and your delivery as a father to the next level. But unfortunately, we lacking that in a lot of times, especially in the inner cities.
I'd like to continue the conversation with Mr. Harris said is that I was fortunate to have my father. So he trained me how to be a man, but his training came through me watching him. My father didn't teach me how to hit a woman because he never hit my mother. He never taught me how to cuss out someone because my father didn't do that. So when you have a cycle, my father had his father, and my father fathered me and my two brothers and my sister. So only thing I can do as a father and a husband is to do the same thing my father taught me. And so fatherhood is a cycle. Who teaches you the skills of what it takes to be a man Who teaches you the skill to take care of a child? Most likely you watch from your father. And I'm not saying mothers can't do the job, but my dad taught me everything I need to do how to be a man. And one thing my dad said at a marriage retreat back in 2005, he said, I work my sons really hard, but if I died today, my boys know how to make it. How many fathers are here teaching their kids to build a legacy in them so they can keep the same cycle going? That's what it takes. And that's one thing that I applaud this young man here for, is we're not here being in that initiative to teach fathers. So fatherhood is a cycle. Somebody has to break it. And that's why I mentor, so I can get one kid to find a way to break the fatherhood cycle so he can be there for his kids and be able to hold his kid, because that's what it takes. And that's one thing I pride myself on as a father, is that when I look at my two boys, I say I am leaving a legacy in them that my father taught me. And that's why I'm a big advocate for fatherhood.
Seth, how about you?
I really could not have said it better. Fatherhood is generational, and fatherlessness is generational. And what we can do is we can either help fathers continue the cycle, or when there is somebody that has not experienced a loving, caring father, to help support that dad, so that dad can begin the next positive cycle.
I want to just add one more bit to that. Just an example. I got a story of, I did time in prison. I did 3 years, got out, had my first son, completely changed my life. And he's the reason why I'm here today. But I think about my father, and he did time in prison as well, but he got his life together around 38. He became a deacon, he's a bishop now in the community. And so that sparked a generational spark. Around 28, I got my life together. I've been in this field for about 8 years, 27, but about 28, I started realizing, like, man, I'm a dad. Like, I really need to focus on the generations to come. And so with that being said, by the time my 9-year-old turns 18, he should be smooth sailing. You see the gaps there? 38, 28, 18, and then my youngest is 4. By the time he 8, that's gonna be the one to retire me.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I can stop doing all this work.
Based on your experience, how can we balance what the data tells us or does not tell us, and the realities of father and with the realities of father and children, and how do we negate the course of perspective to find your call to action to support fathers? Let's begin this question with you, Seth.
Okay, sure. So I think often the data are to this or that. So it's not the data, it's not the people that are responding, but it's the people who analyze the data. So data say you're either an involved present dad or you're an uninvolved father who has abandoned his kids and, doing his own thing. I don't think it's that either or. So there are 75 million fathers in the United States. There are 75 million journeys along fatherhood trek. So some of those fathers are married. Some of them are not. Some analyses would say, unless you're married, you're not really a good father, right? And we know that that's not the case. So of that 75 million fathers, 3 in 4 live with their kids. That's reassuring, right? What about that last 25%? So that last 25%, about 10% have a mix of residents with some of their kids and non-residents with others of their kids. And that last 15% don't live with their kids. Now, some people would look at that last 15% and say, well, those are uninvolved dads who have abandoned their kids. It's not true. It's not true. And there are dads that are in that first 3 out of 4 dads, right, that are living with their kids, but they're spending more time at work than they are with their kids, right? That are not really playing with their kids, roughhousing, playing catch, right? So I said earlier that I think every moment as a dad matters. And when you decide to be a dad, that's what matters. So when you look at father involvement, when you look at data at father involvement, not whether the dad is living with the kids or not whether the dad is married or not, children have a lower risk of poor outcomes when their fathers are present and involved. So it may be that children's high level it may be for many children that high levels of parental conflict undo the benefits that non-resident fathers can bring, right? So how do I navigate that call to action? So I think we got to serve all fathers where they're at. We support all men who decide either today for the first time or day after day after day, I'm going to focus on my kid. Because father involvement matters to kids no matter what that involvement looks like.
Let's go to you, Marcus, I believe. Yes.
From the data, 1 out of 4 has a father in the home. I call this whole issue the pandemic that no one talks about. And I did that on my podcast. It's a pandemic. If 1 out of 4 kids have a father in the home, who's teaching them? Who's teaching them how to be a man? Who's teaching them how to stay out of prison? Who's teaching them that? I've seen kids repeat the same cycle as their father. I've seen it. I know a young man right now that's in jail because he repeated the same cycle of his father. So the thing is now is that what can we do now as a group today is to bring more of an awareness, encourage dads to be there for your kid. If it don't work out with the mom, okay, be there for the kid in any kind of way that you can, because that child's looking for you. That child's looking for his daddy to hold him. So the data's out there. I think it's 18 million as well, growing around fathers. And like I said, this is not a bashing. There are good fathers out here. There are good dads out here. But when I go to the schools, when I go visit kids, they're looking around. And when I go to a kindergarten class to visit one of my young in my program, you know what the kids say? Who daddy is that? How do kids in kindergarten know they're supposed to have a daddy? In kindergarten. I'm a big guy. I go sit in them little kindergarten chairs and I look at my son. Because my kids in my program is my son. I don't look at him as just a mentor. So the data's are alarming. I think we all know that. It's like, what can we do now? And it's to bring more of an awareness to fatherhood. Let's preach it out loud. I say churches need to say more about it, about fatherhood. Preach a sermon on fathers standing up to be there for their kids. And I think if we can start doing this, hopefully you see the numbers begin to come down on fatherhood. But it's an alarming stat. It's a pandemic that no one's talking about. And it's an issue that I see more and more, but the stats are out here. Gentleman to my right, my left said it. It's bad, but it's a problem. And so what can we do now to try to bring this pandemic to an end?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think I'm gonna take a different approach on the stats, but before that, let me paint a quick picture. So when I was about 10, I'm sitting in my room, waiting on school the next day, got my clothes out, getting ready, right? Mom busts in the room. She's visibly upset. She takes this piece of paper, crumbles it, throws it at me, and said, "Here, this is what your bleep bleep daddy gave you." So I open up the paper, it's a check, and it says the number 25. So I'm like, wow, $25. I said, dang, tell my dad I said, thanks, Ma. She looked at me with disgust and said, it's 25 cents, dummy. Right now, she's in a tough spot. 5 kids, 4 different dads, none of them there, living on welfare. We in a tough neighborhood, drugs, gangs, violence everywhere. So I get it and I understand it later. But what I didn't understand at that time was like, why take it out on me? Like, and then I thought my dad was a horrible person. I'm like, why would somebody send a check for 25 cents? But here's the thing. I didn't understand the full picture. This is the time where my dad was in prison. I just didn't know. And so let's say he getting a $4 check for the month. He got 4 kids. They got to divvy it up however they divvy it up. Right. And so at that moment, my dad was reduced down to a paycheck and I hated him. But this is going back to this whole thing about fathers being in a home. Sometimes we don't understand the full picture. And so sometimes when I see these statistics and I see that it says 80% of homelessness or 90% came from fatherless homes, 71% of teenage pregnancy came from fatherless homes. I get that. But as I've got my education, I've just always learned to ask questions. And so why does it always say in the home? And I also say, how convenient, right? Because when we know that there are laws and policies that supported men not being in those households, right? I.e. the war on drugs, as Dr. Farrell talked about from the 70s to now, there was a 700% increase in men in prison from 300,000 to 2.2 million currently, right? And so how convenient to say the statistics and add that piece of in the home, right? I worked at the WIC office. I used to work with the fathers. I used to see mothers come in and they would ask them the question like, is dad in the home? I would know him. I would know dad is involved. I would see him constantly, but I see her check and say no. Why? Because if she says yes, she's gonna lose certain benefits. She's not gonna get the same amount of assistance, right? And then there's literally laws and policies that affect a person with a criminal conviction. So I'm gonna speak to that because that's my story. And it's a lot of guys who can't get housing because if you apply through the property management company, as soon as they see that you're a felon, they're gonna throw your application in the garbage, right? And so then that becomes the in the home piece. And so what I realized through doing my programming was a lot of these dads are involved. And so we just changed the question to, is father involved? Because I'd see a guy who the mom might say he's not in the home, but I know for a fact he's picking up the kids every day from school. I know for a fact he's dropping the kids off to daycare. I know for a fact he signed them up for football. I know for a fact I'm one of the football coaches and he bring his son to play football every single day for practice. And so when I'm looking at statistics, I just learned to ask that question because I think the analogy is if a kid came from a pond or a river and he came to the hospital, the doctor is going to treat him, right? A second boy, a second girl comes, he's going to probably treat that person. Third, fourth, maybe they're going to treat the individual. But after a while, they're going to start asking like, where is this coming from? We need to go treat the contaminated pond or the contaminated river. And I'm not saying our systems are flawed through and through, but I'm saying is a lot of times it is. And so sometimes we got to take a systemic approach to what we're trying to do. And I'm loving what we're doing currently because we got a lot of practitioners up in here who like, man, we serving these fathers, but it's only so much that we can do to help because all these bureaucratic processes and all these things like, come on, man, this pandemic happened, right? Everybody was getting stimulus checks. I got guys coming to me and they can't even get their stimulus check because they owe child support. And I get that, be accountable. But we in a pandemic. Nobody got money right now. They can't work, they can't go do X, Y, and Z. And so I'm like, okay, how do I help him now that he needs rental assistance? Call the rental assistance people. They say, does he have small children in his custody? No, he don't. And so when it comes down to these stats, pay attention to how things are worded. And as Seth said, like pay attention to who analyzed it. How was the data gathered? Oftentimes the data is gathered from the moms who come into service programs. And so of course, she gonna say, no, he's not involved because she might lose the benefits. And so a lot of times the data and the statistics are skewed.
I got a feeling we need about a whole day is what I think. Two-part question, last question. Based on your perspectives, what's working for fathers? Number one, we are joined, we know, by an audience that's ready to pitch in and ask a lot of questions, but what solutions, innovation, or behaviors are working for our fathers in all these different programs that we've got in society? I know, you kind of just hit on it, Charmaine, but what's working? Let's start there. And I'm just going to say, who want to go first?
That's a Charmaine question. He's up here. He's killing it. I'm learning from him. Because like I said, he's been in that, he's been in the system. I don't know a lot of fatherhood programs out here because I primarily work with young men. So I think, what works is that I've seen several programs that mentors and talk to dads, does dad circles to try to help dads. I think just from my honest opinion, what works is that continue to speak about it, find programs that's going to support you. That's just my thought and opinion. But like I said, Charmaine, he's the man. So he has that perspective because he's lived it. And I think for me is that I'm a person that tries to find a way to fix a solution. So I think I don't really know that answer primarily. So I'm gonna leave it to Charmaine.
I can.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
Charmaine, who's gonna go first?
I think what's happening now is what's working. So give it up to everybody that has something to do with this.
Yeah.
I recently been traveling the country. I just came from South Dakota, Portland. I'm going to Nebraska, and I'm speaking to these child support agencies about the importance of starting fatherhood initiatives. And what's happening is the conversation is now being ignited. Commissioner Carter said, let's light the candle. I think the candle is being lit right now. And what's working is national scale conversation. Even Tangular Gray of over it used to be OCSE, Office of Child Support Enforcement or something like that, is just recently changed to Office of Child Support Services. So there's power in the name, right? Oftentimes the fathers we work with, when they think about enforcement, the only thing they think about is once I call them, I'm going to jail. Child support, jail, go the same. But I became like a broker in between the two. Like, no, it's not that. There's services offered to you, but how can you get service to somebody who see or has a certain perspective of your office? A lot of times it's not the most welcoming. You give a call. I'll share that. I had a guy, come to my office and he just like super upset. And he like, man, slam this piece of paper down. Like, I need you to help me with this. I read the paper. It's one of those things where if you don't pay, they basically giving you a warning. But at the bottom it said, if anything happens or changes, give us a call. And so I'm like, did you see this part right here where it said you can give them a call? He started hyperventilating. Call. What? I'm like, yeah, just call this number right here. Like, I can't do that. I'm like, bruh, you can't go to jail over the phone. I'm like, give him a call. So he like, can you do it for me? So this was how I was new in the field. I was probably a year in. I'm like, okay, I'll give a call. I gave a call. Lady was super pleasant. And she said, let me pull up the case, checked it. And she said, okay, if he's dealing with work issues or in between jobs, tell him we'll extend it out 90 days. And so I'm like, okay, he can hear you. We on speaker. And so after I said that, we hung up the phone. The man gave me a hug like when you send your kid off to college. like that's what kind of hug he gave me. But I had to sit back and really think about that. Like, what was it about child support that made him feel like that? Where did the anxiety come from? What was his history? What did the 30 guys around him tell him about child support? And so to me, the conversation that's happening right now is working in a total rebranding of what child support really is, because, I believe that they are there to serve the whole family, but oftentimes the fathers feel like they're only to serve the mothers.
Thank you. Well, I want to just inject real quick. Most of this audience may or may not know that in addition to being a legislator, I'm a pastor as well. And one of the things we've started in our church on a small scale, because we can't reach but so many people, is what we call the Mind Academy. Now, we work with young men and fathers, child support fathers, but young men, teaching them, giving them fatherhood skills and what have you. And it's been working pretty well. I do think it's important that each community get involved in this process. Because fathers, there's so many homes lacking fathers for many different reasons. And we don't want to get into those reasons today, because when we go back to that generational piece, my dad worked to let the family go to school. And I don't know if anybody else in this room is old enough to know that. And the idea was dad go to work so the kids can go to school and mom can keep the house, because that was the condition that he worked in at that time. So I know there's a lot that we have to talk about. Yes, sir.
And just to commend you on your fatherhood initiatives, and I'm sure there's many of us doing fatherhood work at a practitioner level. Like I said before, we gonna do what we got to do at the community level because we know that it's needed. But it's challenging when you're trying to serve the community or help, but you don't really got access to funding or resources.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
On top of that, whenever you try to do something, is red tape involved or bureaucratic processes that, oh no, you can't do that. Oh, you're not allowed to help them fill out the paper, send them over to legal services, which then they tell them, oh, you got a 2-week appointment and they need it right then and there. Right. So I believe that there's many practitioners in here that are doing the work, but now we've been having this bottom up approach. What's happening today, what I believe Commissioner Carter and everybody else is trying to do is having a top-down approach where we can both meet in the middle.
Yeah, because you're exactly right. Because what we've assigned our deacons and trustees to become fathers to young men. Rather than sitting around discussing how much money we got in the treasury, let's give you something really to do. Look, I know we got to transform to the audience now, because I'm sure there are a lot of questions. So at this time, we're going to give our audience an opportunity to ask questions to these gentlemen. I'm sure they can give you a reasonable answer at least.
All right, Representative Shaw, if you want to take a seat over there, and we're open for questions now. We have someone with a microphone, and I'm told, tell me if this is true, your name is Mike with the mic?
That's right.
And your last name is what?
Microphone.
Magic. I'm not kidding. So at any rate, first question over here.
Hello, my name is
All our folks here.
Hello. Hello, my name is Talise Thomas, and I am here with Maximus. We serve as child support offices throughout Tennessee, one being Memphis, the largest privatized child support in the United States. And so my job is to do exactly what you all say. I'm an outreach manager. We do 2 Gen initiatives to try to bridge that gap and change that perception. And I love the way Mr. Harris hit on it. It's trauma-informed care. It's trauma affiliated with child support. And so my job is try to help change that perception. But I have a personal question because I've been motivated here today. I too came from a 2-parent household, but I'm with a guy who didn't have that foundation of fatherhood. And so as we began to plan our life and children and all of that, how can I as a woman motivate him in his quest to be a father if he doesn't have that foundation, without making him feel less than or feeding into the nagging stereotype or making him feel like he's not good enough, but also just wanting to support him in that. So that's my question to you, and wonderful jobs to all you kings up there.
Thank you.
I think, so your son does not have a father in home, right? Oh, okay. Okay, I got it. Yeah. Got it. I think being like Mr. Harris said, I think finding programs that support fathers gonna give him the tools of what it takes to be a man, and let him feel like he's less than, but he just needs tools. And unfortunately, some fathers doesn't, when you don't have that, what tools are you given? So I think finding this, that's why Commissioner Carter is having this conference. So I think what you can take back, also find programs that's for him, find podcasts that he can listen to and ask for questions and help. That would be my suggestion. And then find him a mentor. There should be male mentors to mentor other males. I don't see no problem with that, because if you don't have the tools, how do you know? Because you're going to learn in some kind of way. But if he wants to be a good, wholesome man, a good, godly man, I think just finding somebody that can help guide him so he can answer questions and stuff like that. And that would just be my suggestion.
I think relationships important too. I think just starting to create a good relationship where he'll trust you, believe what you say. I think that's the beginning.
Yeah, I think when it comes to what Marcus said, all of the above, but sprinkle it on them, don't flood them.
Yeah.
You know, small drips. I know you won't help. As I was running the program, I get a lot of moms calling me like, "Oh, my husband, my boyfriend should be in your program. Can you reach out to him or can you give me the information? I can give it to him." I'm like, "Yeah, that ain't gonna work." And it's not that he don't respect you or like value your opinion, but when he dealing with the maybe it's a toxic relationship with the kid's mom, and you know, all of that comes with that. I ain't gonna go into all of that, but when he's dealing with all of that, the last thing you want to hear is like somebody trying to tell him he needs to do more, you know. As Dr. Farrell said, you know, we are human beings, not human doings. And so sometimes people feel like they're being told to do more when they're really just trying to figure it out. As men, we think a lot, you know. We'll take a whole day, 2 to 3 days just thinking and trying to figure it out. But a lot of times, like with my wife or, you know, a lot of partners here, they want it to happen that day. Like, "Oh, what's the answer today?" Like, give me a chance. I'm thinking about it, you know. But some guys do think for too long.
So I think what my colleagues here have said is absolutely correct. And if you want to sprinkle it on him, I would recommend encouraging him to hang out with one dad, right? And then maybe hang out with a second dad. And then maybe then he'd feel open to attending a program. I think so there's research that shows there's an epidemic of isolation, right? And as guys, after we leave high school and college, that becomes more acute, right? We need each other a lot, right? And sometimes we'll just like go into video games, right? We'll just like close off the world, and that's bad for us. If you want to encourage your partner to possibly think about fatherhood in future, tag him up with one dude. Say, you guys just go out, watch the game, and then maybe a second dude.
Okay, we still got about 10 minutes left for questions. I see a hand back this way. Hope you're wearing your Fitbit and get your numbers up on this one, Mike. Head on over there. And what's your question for the panel up here?
Yeah, Reggie Madison, first things first, out of Chattanooga. As we talk about policies and things like that, how, and that takes a collective effort. And so I guess I'm curious about how you can see whether it's practitioners or people come together to begin to form and pursue those collective efforts to actually, affect policy, affect legislation, that kind of thing. Because there is a lot that needs to change, particularly to help dads feel more welcomed into the system.
Well, you're asking what can be done at a policy level?
Well, how can we begin to bring people together to begin to actually make those changes in motion?
So I think conferences like this are the best example. When we have local and state conferences, getting people together to talk about the policies in their own locales or states, that's when the change can happen. A lot of child support policy, welfare policy happens at the state level. And talking to the people that are involved in making those policies and enforcing those policies, I think that's where change can happen. It doesn't happen when people just don't communicate. They don't meet, they don't talk about things that are real, that are really important. I should say, even though it's important for all of us to meet, conferences like this are rare, exceptionally rare. And that's a big shame. It takes leaders in, maybe in Nashville, maybe in Memphis, again, in Tennessee, to say, let's all come together and talk about what we can do to change things.
And just to go along with that, I think this is important, but like from something that you can do practically, like keep the conversation going at your own office. Like keep it burning hot, like keep it at the top of people's minds. Sometimes you're gonna run into somebody that's not really for it, but the good thing about that is they probably gonna be retiring in 3 or 4 years. So there's new energy coming in, and if not, you be that new energy. Like, what does your office look like? Some offices don't even have pictures of families on the walls. Some offices don't even have, it doesn't even look inviting. Like, I worked at the WIC office. Anybody tell me what WIC stands for?
Yeah.
Hold on, I didn't hear y'all when y'all said that. What didn't you hear? Right? So I'm not saying that's terribly wrong. I'm saying there were some times, like maybe that was during the time where people were going to war, and women, infants, and children did need support. But what I'm saying is things have changed now. And so you got to continue to push the envelope. I'm proud to say that even at my WIC office that I was working at, there wasn't a baby changing station in the men's bathroom. Guess who changed that? Oh yeah. Yeah, give me props for that. So like those small things that push the envelope from the smallest level to the highest level. And then, like he said, what we doing here, I'm hearing strategic plans. That takes it from just ideas, and now we putting something on paper and we putting something on writing, and there's an action plan after that. And so, but before it can get to that level, it had to start somewhere at the smallest level. And so take pride in that, and you can do it in your own office as well.
Well said. Yeah.
All right, any other questions?
See one over there.
Got one in the back over here, Mike? Just
Guys,
give us your
must
name
be good
and
really
let us
bad.
know where you're from.
There's a lot of questions.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jabbar Jared. I'm from Ripley, Tennessee, and I work with Persevere. But I want to ask this question. Due to circumstances, some men don't have the luxury to parent all their children under one roof. With that being said, how does a father effectively parent all of his children with them being spread out? And like, he might have problems getting to some and can't see some due to some circumstances. Like, so what would be some advice for that?
One of the things my dad did, my dad had 6 kids, 3 different moms. And so that entailed, like, I seen him go through that. So I told myself, I'm not gonna put my children through that. So when I got married, we in this for life. But yeah, one of the things my dad always did was he made sure he got all his children together at once, whether it be on a weekend or an event or church or something like that. It's not going to be the easiest plight for you when you got kids and it's multiple different moms, multiple different personalities. Maybe she has other children. There's another father involved, and it can get chaotic. But I just encourage you to find the peace within the chaos and do all that you can to continue fighting for your children. One of the worst things I get from dads is they get to the point where they feel like just giving up. And often these are the people that they call deadbeat. But in actuality, they've been beat dead by the system. Right? And so I have to continue, like we'll do mock trial preparation, like right there in the group. Like, because a lot of times they so passionate, they go in the courtroom and they got all this energy, but the judge be like, all right, you ain't about to come in here with that. and find them in contempt and, you know, things like that. So just continue fighting. I tell the guys, like, the judge will know me on a first name basis if I was going through something. You're going to see me every day filing some kind of motion. So just keep fighting. That's all I can say.
But I do think it's important that we understand, fathers need to understand that they are seed sowers. You know, you got to be careful where you sow your seeds. But once you sow those seeds, you are responsible. And I think it does start with communicating, being honest about the fact that you fathered a child. Even if you can't do all you need to do for that child needs to know that you are his dad or her dad. So I think that's important. And that's one of the things we are doing in our church with the younger men, saying, okay, be careful where you sow your seeds because it's coming back. And I think that's the one thing the younger generation of men do have to understand. You got to know it's important to where you sow your seeds and don't sow them in the wrong place, because that can get you in a whole lot of trouble. And when you get to that point, the system says you got to pay. And you can only be one father at one time and hold one job at one time. So I think that's something we really need to talk about, but I think it starts at home if it can, but not certainly it starts in the church and in the community and go forward from there.
So I just add that fathers have to be good to themselves too. So you want to father as much as possible, forgive the phrase, without killing yourself, right? And if somebody has 4 kids with four different moms, the amount that dad can participate in some of those kids' lives is going to be really restrained, right? Because the mom's going to say no, right? So if you can't see those 2 kids, write them letters. The kids that you can see, spend as much time as you can with them. You got to be as much of a dad as you can without killing yourself.
Okay, we have time for one last question.
All right.
I see a hand up go there.
All right.
Mike to the mic.
And before we go there, another thing, one of the dads in my groups did, he couldn't see his kids. So he started a YouTube channel and he was basically like, just give advice or like, son, I was thinking about you, or I missed your birthday. And it's all documented, the time step when he uploaded it. And so I'm like, man, I'm using that, or I'm telling all the other fathers to do something like that, because as I didn't know the full picture with my dad, a lot of kids not gonna know the full picture until they get older. Go ahead, my man.
Hello, I'm David. I'm a youth pastor. I'm an old youth pastor, 52 years old, but the question that I have is, we walk into these churches and 90% are women, 10% are men. My question is, how are we going to get these dads into church and to teach these children what God is about? And I believe God is the foundation of everything. So my question is, what is y'all's advice on encouraging these fathers that are not coming to church, not only with their children, but with their wives also?
First, I think we have to each one teach one. You know, what I found out as a pastor, someone in that congregation has influence on someone else that nobody else has. And most of the times pastors make the mistake to think they are the ones, but that's not true. Each one teach one. You have to reach out in the community. You have to talk to people. You have to get to know people, and they will share with other people and so forth. And that's how you get people back in, for the lack of the right words, back in church, because church is really in us. But that's how you get them back to the building. But when you get them back, you don't beat them up. You love them. That's what you do. You just love them. until you get people to communicate. And one dad who may be what you call a deadbeat dad in the community turn out to be one of the best dads because somebody else talked to him. So I think it's just a matter of communication, loving. One of the things I think is very important for us to understand, and I know this is not a worship service, but Jesus Christ elevated love above every law and everything else in the whole, in all of humanity. So I think that's how we do that.
And I think you can have conferences, man up conferences, and to try to reach them that way. And just like Reverend Shaw said, not beat them up, but meet them where they at. But man up conferences are always good to have. I would like to see them more relevant, where we can have man up events and make it fun for dads to come up. Don't come there to preach on them, and make it fun. You know, have fun classes.
Yeah.
To start getting them engaged back with fathers. And I think that will help. One way to get them back into churches. And like I said, if a father doesn't teach a child to go to church, it's really hard to get that man to go. My dad didn't go to church. My mom did. The only way we got away from dad, because he worked us to death, was to go to church. So we went to church. So that's what worked for me. But that was just a method. But I just think just conferences is a good way to help bring men together, and hopefully that can start bringing the conversation to getting more men back in church.
I'll add one more thing. You know, like the question, like I like the question, but oftentimes even with businesses or our programs, right, we'd be like, why are they not coming in and getting our services? It's free. The caseload numbers are down. All of these things, right? And we went through that period when I was at WIC. But I said, could it be that there's a economic increase happening around here? You know, we got Amazon that came in, Hariba, all these big manufacturing companies. And so now they might not need the services no more, but they look at it like it's a bad thing. So to your point about church, sometimes the pastor might say, yeah, the men don't want to come into the
Watch
church.
out.
Right. And so you got this guy who he dealing with something with his maybe his wife, right? But on top of that, he got other children. So he has his children's mother, right? So he dealing with that messaging. He tried to go get resources, but they told him no because he didn't have small children in the home. He went to his guys and he complained, like Dr. Farrell said, and they chewed him out, right? Oh, stop being soft, man up. And so he said, you know what? I'm gonna go to church. And when he go to church, the church say, and see what men need to do. And I get it. I'm all for accountability. Like there needs to be a message for that. But sometimes, not to mention, his wife said after church, did you hear what Pastor said?
Having everybody hot.
So now his wife then got some other guy that she sees above him as husband, right? So I'm just saying, like, broaden it a little bit, because sometimes we look at it like, oh, why aren't they coming in? Sometimes we need to ask ourselves that and not say they not coming in, but what are we doing for them not to come in? Just like child support services, what is the perspective? Just like my guy I mentioned, like, why is he so anxious? Why does he not want to come in? Why do those dudes not want to come into the church?
All right, thank you. That's all for the question. Let's do just some quick closing statements from everyone on our panel.
Thank you for letting me be here this morning, Commissioner Carter, and all of you.
It's who you are. It's who you are.
And I
It's who you are. Loved by you.
thank you.
It's who I am.
This is great. I was telling somebody else earlier that years ago, these type of power wasn't happening. No hope from Things are changing, so just be ready. You know, a lot of people have been waiting, like, man, is it ever gonna change? I think the time is now, and we can take pride in it. Also, anybody want to contact me, CharmaineHarris.com. All social media, Charmaine Harris, SHARMAIN, Harris.
I'm gonna listen to him some more. He did a great job. My closing remark is that we know that fatherhood matters. One thing I want to do is encourage dads, be there for your kids when they need you. Being a mentor for 20 years, kids need their dads. Women, girls, they need their dads. They need them. I have a sister that loves my dad. But my dad made sure she found the right husband too. He watched that. He said, he told I say this, I know we got to go. He told my brother-in-law who was struggling in college, my dad doesn't have a college degree. He said, you don't marry my daughter without a degree. He says, your job is to take care of my daughter, not for her to take care of you. He went back and got his degree because he loved my sister that much. And now he has a great job at Nissan. I would encourage single moms, find programs for your son. If one program doesn't work, find another one. But keep fighting to keep your son out of jail. Find activities for them to do. I know some moms in my program have kids in karate, hockey, all kinds of stuff. I said the more they can keep their child busy, the less likely they're going to jail. Keep your child busy. And I encourage single moms. I applaud single moms. Fight for your sons, and dads, be there for your kids. And you can also find me at stronger-than-my-father.org. We have a booth set up out here. We'd love to talk to you. And any way I can be of assistance to help fight for fatherhood, I'll be there.
Right? 99 playoffs, right? Versus Bills. That rolls in across the game, right? That play occurred because the team worked together. What I'm hearing here to state is right.
And you know, you're leading me right into touchdown dads. All right, thank you, Seth Chamberlain, Marcus Manise, Charmaine Harris, and Representative Reverend Johnny Shea. Thank you, sir.
Sean.